Ego is an issue if ego means I am in control of my own life and I've not surrendered control of my life to God. That is a thing that God will take us through to get us to the point of surrender. But he doesn't want to remove who we are so we lose our identity and reality. He wants to help us find who we are. He wants to help us find our lost identity and discover the fullness of who we are, which will come when we discover that our soul is not a bad thing. It's just a bad master. And we don't want our soul to be mastering us. But our soul and spirit should be integrated to be like purely seamless, like as if they're one, because they should be fully enhanced. No different than Father, Son, and Spirit are, in a sense, completely seamlessly in union. Spirit, soul, and body with us should be completely in union. And I think as we learn to engage God in a deeper and more intimate way, he will reveal more of our identity. We won't lose it. We will discover it, but we won't discover it in independence. And I think part of the ploy of removing ego is a deception to, in a sense, put the soul down and open you up to spiritual things because the soul is bad. Well, it isn't. And a lot of Christian things would present the soul's bad as well, because they don't give a balanced approach to the reality of God made us a soul. We were formed by the Spirit in the body as a living soul, a living being that's supposed to have a personality and is supposed to be and is created with design by God. We just get messed up by the environment we're brought up in generally. And God wants to bring us back to true reality, which is ultimately really discovering who we are. So we fully embrace that. You see, when Jesus said, all who are weary and heavy laden, come to me and find rest, he was talking to those who were seeking to find their identity through performance, religious performance in the sense of the Jewish faith. So, you're trying to follow all these rules and regulations and then add in a whole layer of traditions around them. And then you have a whole layer of, rabbis' traditions around it. And now you're so burdened by trying to keep all these rules and regulations, you are totally weary and worn out by it all. It is such a heavy burden that you cannot bear it. And that's what religion will do to everybody ultimately. And he was saying, come to me and find rest. And then he said a very interesting thing, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, because I am gentle and humble in heart. Now, I remember when I was in heaven in 2010, engaging initial experiences with God, Jesus gave me an exposition of that verse, actually taught me what it was to be weary and heavy laden and why, because I was caught up in religious activity and performance, because I didn't really know who I was, and then showed me what his yoke really is. Now, I know his yoke's easiest burden's light, but the key of that isn't that. The key is, if I am in intimate relationship with Jesus, he will help me to discover the truth of who I am. So to be gentle and humble in heart, gentleness, the actual word, is not what we tend to think of in English, which can be a bit meek, because it's translated meek, I think, in the King James Version. It's not about that being a doormat and I'm nobody and I'm nothing and I'm meek and I'm gentleness. The actual concept came from a Greek thought of a wild stallion who was immensely strong, but was now under the control of the rider. So he had been broken. That's what they call a horse who's been broken in, so a rider can ride it. And in a sense was surrendered. So it's actually knowing, truly being gentle is knowing your strength. It is knowing the power that you have as a son of God. It's knowing your identity and the awesomeness of that identity, and yet totally surrendering it to only do what the Father is doing, which is totally what Jesus did. And to be humble is not, oh, I'm no one and nothing, I'm a worm. That's totally the opposite of humility. Humility is coming into an agreement with God, what God says, humbling ourselves under his mighty hand, or humbling ourselves under his mighty voice. And what he says, I'm in agreement with. So again, it's agreeing with the reality of who he made me to be and accepting that, and not accepting anything less than. Now, none of it is by effort or performance. It's all through what he's done. But as I accept, humility is, I agree with God about me. And if he says I'm more than a conqueror and there's nothing is impossible for me, and I can be a co-creator and a co-heir, and I can be seated in heaven, and I can do all these things, humility is agreeing with that. Because when we are willing to be under his mighty hand, it says he will exalt us. I don't have to engineer the circumstances in my life to exalt myself, to find my own position by my own effort and strength and abilities. That will just get me to be weary and worn out. I just have to come into agreement with him. And that is actually what true humility and true gentleness is. And that will enable me to live in rest, because all I am doing is agreeing with him. I'm not having to come up with all this myself. So that fully, when you fully are like that, that is a fully mature son, a fully mature soul, because there is nothing in there that's trying to do things independently. Independence will create the weariness, because we'll be trying to do something to earn something that already belongs to us. And that's just going round and round and round and round on the hamster wheel of life. You don't get anywhere. You just get worn out. You know, well, Jesus wants us to enjoy life and have it to its full. The enemy comes to rob, kill, and destroy, but I've come so you can have life in abundance. And that is living from a place of rest, without a doubt. Hi, everyone. We're starting a Patreon page, patreon.com/freedomarc. And we would like to invite you to partner with us in taking the message of God's unconditional love, limitless grace, triumphant mercy to a bigger global audience.